We're good
live now. Yep.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. We will call the special meeting of council to order. Adoption of the open session agenda. Be it resolved that the council of the corporation of the town of Bancroft is hereby approve the open session agenda dated May 18th, 2021 as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Wiggins, Deputy Mayor Mullet, all in favor, please. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. So before we get into the public meeting, I know we've all mentioned this previously, but we must officially recognize that tomorrow is Leanne Souter's last day. So several of us have been around long enough to remember when Leanne started in the municipality, and we like to convey how grateful and proud we are to have been able to watch her progress through her career all the way up to her job, her upcoming job with AMO. So thank you, Leanne. And we all know that working in municipal spotlight can be very challenging and all-encompassing with many long hours. And we'd sincerely like to thank Leanne for helping the town get to not only where we are today, but where we're going to be in a few years from now. So of course, you'll get no credit for all the hard work you put into where we're going. Somebody else will grab that at that time. So these are definitely very exciting times for the town of Bancroft, and it's a lot of it attributed to the hard work that you have done. So these pandemic times have not permitted us to celebrate properly in all of your accomplishments. So we will be inviting you back, and we expect you to accept your invitation so we can officially acknowledge your contribution. So thank you very much, Leanne, and the best to you, and congratulations on your new job. So
thank you, Your Worship. It's been a wonderful ride. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. So we'll let you go take a break and go put your feet up now while we'll move on with the meeting. So public meeting, the Planning Act. As required by the Planning Act, the purpose of the public meeting is to inform the public and hear representation in respect of a proposed bylaw for the purpose of rezoning lands within the municipality. Those persons or public bodies who provide verbal submissions in respect of the proposed bylaw will be requested to provide their names and address for recording in the minutes. Verbal submissions may be recorded in the minutes and will assist council in making decision on the proposed bylaw. Applications will be heard in the order in which they appear on the agenda. The resolution is be it resolved that the council of the corporation of the town of Bancroft is hereby moving to public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act for the purpose of hearing support and or objection for rezoning applications within the municipality. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Barry McGibbon, seconded by Councillor Miles. All in favor? Thank you. So first on our list is zoning bylaw amendment application 010-2020. The file descriptions, the owners are Shantanu and Rakhit. The municipal address is 337 Bradshaw Road. Legal description, lot 12, registrar's compiled plan, 1929, Geographic Township of Dungannon, now town of Bancroft, county of Hastings. The purpose and effect. The purpose of proposed zoning bylaw amendment to the town of Bancroft's comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 is to rezone the subject lands from rural residential RUR zone to rural residential exception 10 RUR-10 zone to provide relief from section 3.1 to permit an accessory building prior to the erection of a principal building. The proposed amendment will also permit an accessory building to be located in the front yard. So could we have the report from our planning coordinator, please?
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council, staff, applicants, and those viewing. The town has received a complete zoning bylaw amendment application to rezone lands municipally known as 337 Bradshaw Road from rural residential zone to the rural residential exception 10 zone. The subject lands are located on the east side of Bradshaw Road, and the applicants have applied for a zoning bylaw amendment application to recognize the existing accessory building on the property and to permit an accessory building in the front yard. The existing accessory building was built without the benefit of a building permit, and the chief building official was subsequently contacted by the owners to obtain a building permit for the accessory building, wherein the CBO informed the owner that the building permit for the structure could not be issued, being that an accessory building did not comply with the provisions of the zoning bylaw. As per section 3.1, no accessory building or use shall be established on any lot until the main building or principal use to which it is accessory is established. The principal use in the rural residential zone is a single detached dwelling. The owners were advised to file a zoning bylaw amendment application to recognize the existing accessory building prior to the erection of the principal building. As advised, the owners submitted a zoning bylaw amendment application to permit the accessory building prior to the main use being established. The application also seeks to permit an accessory building in the front yard. In the site sketch that was submitted with the application, it shows the location of the future single detached dwelling, as well as an accessory building labeled as a gazebo, which extends into the front yard. In the rural residential zone, a front yard setback is not provided for accessory buildings not attached to the principal building. Accessory buildings not attached to the principal building are to be established in the side yard or rear yard. The applicants have requested relief from the zoning bylaw to permit an accessory building in the front yard. A front yard minimum setback of 20 meters for an accessory building has been applied to the subject lands. The front yard minimum is the distance between the front lot line and the nearest wall of any principal building, or in this case, the proposed accessory building on the lot. Staff note that the front yard minimum for a single detached dwelling is also 20 meters. Notice of the public meeting was circulated as prescribed by the Planning Act. Written comments regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment have been received from the County of Hastings Planning and Development Department. The senior planner advises that the municipality will have to satisfy itself that the owner does not intend to only have an accessory building or use on the subject property, and that the structure is a precursor to the construction of a single detached dwelling. The senior planner also notes that the establishment of a permanent accessory use on a property within the rural and waterfront land use designation within the EP without a main use is prohibited within the County of Hastings official plan. And the county's planners are also attached to this report. To date, no other written submissions in respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment have been received. The bylaw to amend the Town of Bancroft's comprehensive zoning bylaw 27-2006 has been drafted and is on today's agenda for consideration by council. Staff recommend that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment be approved. That concludes my report, Your Worship, and I'd just also like to note that the applicants, the Rakhits, are attending the meeting today.
Thank you, Robin. So at this time, we'll have a call for public input. If a person or public body does not make verbal submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to council before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal, unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So at this time, were there any written submissions in opposition of the proposed amendment, Robin?
The only written submission was received from the County of Hastings Planning and Development Department, which is attached to this report.
Okay. Is there any verbal submissions in opposition to the proposed amendment? Do you have anybody wanting to speak, Robin?
I don't believe, other than the applicants, I don't believe there is anyone else attending to speak in regards to this proposed application.
Okay, thank you. And you say there were no written submissions in support either for the application other than the applicant?
That's correct, Your Worship.
And a call for verbal submissions in support of the proposed amendment. Did the applicant wish to speak? You don't have to, but if you wish to, you may. Okay, I'm taking that as a no.
Sorry, I was I was on mute, getting old. And thank you for considering. And I don't know how to turn on the video. Should I turn on the video? Just 1 second, please.
Okay, give her a whirl. There you go.
Oh, there you go. I think we have the same beard.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I'm in Pickering, and thank you for considering our case. And I do understand that there was some misunderstanding from previous building inspector to us, and some verbals and here and there. So I would request the council to approve it. And we definitely will start our construction of the main unit as soon as possible. Like, I think between July and August, we should be at least putting some foundation in place.
Thank you kindly. Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Robert, I forget, do I wait for the actual bylaw to appear before we do the vote on it?
The vote will follow the public meeting portion of the agenda.
Okay, okay. So we move on to the next one then.
Okay, so, okay, I will go off the video.
Yeah, you're good. Thank you very kindly.
So am I saying?
You've muted yourself, but you're free to stay till the end if you wish.
Okay, you cannot, okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, the next item that we have is a zoning bylaw amendment application 001-2021. File description, owner is Leah, Jan Card, the agent is Paul Card, the municipal address is 25964 Highway 62 South. Legal description, part lots 27 and 28, concession 4, parts 1 to 3, plan 21R-19512, Geographic Township of Dungannon, now town of Bancroft, County of Hastings. Purpose and effect, the purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment to the town of Bancroft's comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 is to rezone the subject lands from general industrial M2 zone to rural RU zone to recognize the existing residential use of the property. All land zoned environmental protection EP zone will remain zoned environmental protection EP zone. Robin, your report, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The town has received a complete zoning bylaw amendment application to rezone 25964 Highway 62 South from the general M2 zone to the rural RU zone. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject lands to recognize the existing residential use of the property. The property is located on the east side of Highway 62 South and was created by consent in 1999 and is approximately 55 acres. In 2018, a building permit was issued for the construction of a single detached dwelling on the subject lands. In 2020, the property owner applied for a building permit to construct an accessory building. At that time, it was determined by staff that the subject lands are currently zoned general industrial M2 zone, which does not permit a residential use. The owner was advised by staff to submit a zoning bylaw amendment application to rezone the subject lands from general industrial M2 zone to the rural RU zone to recognize the existing residential use of the property and to permit the construction of an accessory building. The land zone environmental protection zone are to remain zone environmental protection zone. The notice of the public meeting was circulated as prescribed by the Planning Act. The County of Hastings planner has offered no objections to the proposed rezoning. To date, no other written submissions in respect to the proposed amendment have been received. The bylaw to amend the town of Bancroft's comprehensive zoning bylaw has been drafted and is on today's agenda for consideration by council. Staff recommend that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application be approved to bring the subject lands into compliance with the zoning bylaw.
Thank you, Robin. So again, a call for public input. If a person or public body does not make verbal submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to council before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing and an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So Robin, you mentioned there were no written submissions for or against the proposal?
That's correct, Your Worship. There were no written submissions received in opposition or support.
So at this time, we'll call for verbal submissions in opposition to proposed amendment. Do you know of anybody wanting to speak, Robin?
I'm not aware of anyone wishing to speak in regards to the proposed amendment.
And call for verbal submissions in support of the proposed amendment. And again, nobody wishing to speak as well that you're aware of.
No, the applicants did not express an interest in attending the meeting today.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next item, zoning bylaw amendment application 002-2021. File description, owner Csaba, Laszlo, the agent Adrian F. Taylor, municipal address 173 Bay Lake Road, legal description lot 1, plan M-35, Geographic Township of Dungannon, now town of Bancroft, county of Hastings. Purpose and effect. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment to the town of Bancroft's comprehensive zoning bylaw 27-2006 is to satisfy conditions of severance for file number B109/19 as follows. There are severed lands be rezoned from the waterfront residential WR zone to rural residential, exception 9, RUR-9 zone, to recognize that the resulting lot no longer has frontage on a lake and to recognize a deficiency in the front yard setback for the existing single detached dwelling from the required minimum of 20 meters to 17.9 meters. The proposed amendment will also recognize a residential structure within 500 meters of land zone extractive industrial M4 zone, that the proposed retained lands be rezoned from the waterfront residential WR zone to the waterfront residential exception 5 WR-5 zone to permit the construction of a single detached dwelling within 17 meters of the high water mark of the water body known as Steimer's Lake, contrary to section 21-3-1A, which provides a 30-meter setback from the high water mark of a water body or permanent water course. The proposed amendment will also permit the construction of a residential structure within 500 meters of land zone extractive industrial M4 zone. All land zoned environmental protection EP zone will remain zoned environmental protection EP zone. So your report, please, Robin.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to satisfy conditions 6 and 7 of provisional consent for file B10919 for the creation of a new residential lot. The subject lands are located on the south side of Bay Lake Road, and the lands are predominantly wooded with some low-lying lands abutting the westerly shore of Steimer's Lake. The applicant submitted a deer wintering habitat assessment in support of the consent application. The habitat assessment was conducted to determine the suitability of the habitat on site and provide recommendations on the potential location for proposed development and limitations for site alteration if negative impacts are anticipated. In addition, the applicant submitted an environmental impact study to support a reduction in the 30-meter setback from water courses and water bodies as per section 21.31 of the zoning bylaw. The applicant will be entering into a development agreement as a condition of the consent with the town to implement the recommendations of the deer wintering assessment and the environmental impact study to ensure there are no negative impacts occur to the habitat. The severed lands are built out with a single detached dwelling and are to be rezoned from the waterfront residential zone to the rural residential exception 9 zone. The purpose of the rezoning is to recognize that the resulting lot no longer maintains frontage on a water body and to recognize a deficiency in the front yard setback for the existing single detached dwelling from the required minimum of 20 meters to 17.9 meters. The proposed amendment will also provide relief from section 3.3A, which relates to areas of influence, including provisions which provide that no person shall erect any residential structure in any zone within 500 meters of quarries zoned the extractive industrial M4 zone and 300 meters of pits or quarries without blasting, crushing, or screening without the approval of the Ministry of Natural Resources upon successful application for a minor variance and provided the residential use is a permitted use on the adjacent lands within the area of influence. Notwithstanding section 3.3A of the zoning bylaw, a residential structure is to be permitted in the rural residential exception 9 RUR 9 zone. The proposed retained lands are currently vacant and are to be rezoned from the waterfront zone to the waterfront residential exception 5 zone. The purpose of the rezoning is to permit the construction of a single detached dwelling within 17 meters of the high water mark of the water body known as Steimer's Lake, which is contrary to section 21.3.1A, which provides a 30-meter setback from the high water mark of a water body or permanent water course. In addition, the proposed amendment will also permit the construction of a residential structure within 500 meters of lands zoned extractive industrial M4 zone, notwithstanding section 3.3A of the zoning bylaw. Lands zoned environmental protection zone are to remain zoned environmental protection zone. The notice of public meeting was circulated as prescribed by the Planning Act. The County of Hastings Senior Planner has offered no objections to the proposed rezoning as it conforms to the policies of the rural and waterfront land use designation and applicable policies of the official plan. To date, no written submissions in respect of the proposed amendment have been received. The bylaw to amend the Town of Bancroft's comprehensive zoning bylaw has been drafted with support from the County of Hastings Planning and Development Department and is on today's agenda for consideration by Council. Staff recommend that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application be approved. That completes my report, Your Worship, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm willing to take questions from Council now, as well as from the public. I know that there is one interested party in regards to this application, as well as the applicant.
Okay, certainly. So if there are questions, please, any questions from members of council? Councillor McGibbon. You're muted.
First time for everything. The map here, it doesn't show the retained land or the severed land, so it just shows the land as a whole. So it doesn't give us any perspective of what's going on.
Okay, so just trying to recall, I believe the severed lands are approximately, they may be around 5 acres and the retained around 12. So the portion with the house will no longer be on waterfront.
Yeah, and I get that. It just would be nice to have an actual map to show, you know, I know anytime we've done a severance before, it always has a map retained and severed land, and especially something like this that's around the water, the gravel pit, it would have been a little more valuable. Anyways, that's all.
Noted.
Councillor Wiggins, you had a question?
Well, I was going to say, follow up, even a sketch of the area so we can get a verbal or a visual of it.
Councillor Miles, did you have your hand up? No? Okay. A member of the public have a question? Yes, go ahead, please.
I do. It's Kayla. My name's Kayla Janjic. I own the property adjacent to this particular applicant's location. I had a couple of questions that I actually sent by email prior to the meeting. And I'm not objecting to anything. I just have some similar questions relating to this. So specifically, if there's a copy of what's intended for the waterfront property, there's design drawings, or is there any ideas to specifically where this dwelling is going to be located and how access is going to be provided to it? how big the building is going to be, how high it will be, that sort of stuff. I'm just wondering if anything has been already proposed and if there's something that could be sent to me for my review.
So through you, your worship, from a planning perspective, a single detached dwelling will be permitted. There is a minimum of 800 square feet for a structure. There is already an established entrance to the property, which was required as a condition of consent. The entrance was also when the deer habitat assessment was taken into consideration. The entrance was established outside of those areas that were considered sensitive. We are giving today that we are proposing a reduction in the 30-meter setback from the water body from 30 meters to 17 meters. And the applicant provided an environmental impact study that showed that it would not impact the lake negatively. All other provisions of the waterfront residential zone will be maintained. And I can forward those on to Kayla.
So
Is
is
that
are there design drawings already in place that would give me a better idea of the specific positioning of the building and the access to it? Have we got that far with the proposal?
There is a general building envelope, and I believe the entrance and driveway has already been established. So I can forward to you a sort of a general site layout of where the proposed building will be constructed.
Okay, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
I had a couple of other quick questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Relating to accessory buildings, I guess, and whether or not bunkies or boat houses are permitted.
So through you, your worship, each zone has a list of permitted uses, and depending upon the zone, I believe, I'm just recalling off the top of my head, in the limited service residential zone, I believe a bunkie may be permitted. I'd have to take a look at the bylaw to see if a bunkie is permitted in the waterfront residential zone. But our zoning bylaw is available online. And you can go to it and see the list of permitted uses within each zone category.
So that's not something that you're able to get for me. You need me to look that up.
I can also forward a link to the zoning bylaw from our website. Yes.
Okay, that would be also very helpful. Thank you.
And any potential structure would have to go through the building permit process where the permitted uses would be verified, et cetera. Did you want to add comment to this, Matt, with respect to what I just was saying? I see you just popped up.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. So I just wanted to provide some information with regards to the waterfront residential zone. A bunkie would not be permitted within the waterfront residential zone. It's not a permitted use in that zone. And any accessory buildings would have to meet the required 30-meter setback unless further provisions are requested through a minor variance or zone.
Does that answer your question? I think maybe she froze.
Sorry, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe my internet connection's not that great, but I did hear what Matt said, and that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. So that was your report. Although we've had some questions, I'll go through the preamble again for the call for public input.
Just want to note, your worship, that the applicant and the applicant's agent is also on the meeting today. And I see the applicant's agent has her video on.
Okay, so when I get to the support, I'll call on them. Thank you. So if a person or public body does not make verbal submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to council before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So you mentioned, Robin, that there were no written submissions either for or against for this.
There were no written submissions received other than the submission from the county planning department offering no objections, your worship.
And I'll make a call for verbal submissions in opposition to proposed amendment at this time.
Sorry, I have a question. So my written submission, it's not an objection or an acceptance, but I did have questions and I sent them by email. Is that not considered to be a written submission?
I would think so. Robin, could you clarify that?
I believe typically a written submission, and I may be wrong in this regard, but it usually has an opinion about the planning application, either negative or positive. My understanding of the written submission that was received is that they were looking for some clarification on some items, which I was hoping to address and will address following this meeting.
So until I get the responses, I don't know that I would have an opinion as to whether I'm objecting or accepting this, though, right? So we kind of need to wait for that.
My suggestion, the best way for that, based on what Robin has just said, is that you could express a verbal objection at this time. And based on the information that you get, you could decide whether or not that you wish to follow through with the appeal process.
Okay, this would be my one and only chance to do that. I think if that's the case, then I would have to object. Not that I'm certainly trying to put up any roadblocks here, but I just need to have a better understanding of what the expectation is.
Yeah, if it's a technicality that you have to either go for or against, that would be my suggestion, and then you can do with it as you please. At least you're on record.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I am going to have to object until I get more information.
Okay. Yeah, that seems fine. So, okay. And call for verbal submissions in support of the proposed amendment. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in support of the amendment? Okay, not hearing from anybody.
Your worship, we have the applicant's agent, Adrian Taylor, on who would like to speak in support of the submission.
Okay, I'm just not seeing anybody on the screen here. Okay. Yes.
Good afternoon, your worship and council. I'll just take a quick moment to introduce myself. My name is Adrian Taylor. I am a lawyer at the Bradley Law Firm in Barry's Bay. So I just imagine that we will be seeing a lot of each other in the future. So I just want to quickly introduce myself. A sketch of the retained and proposed severed lands was attached to the application, kind of showing where the existing dwelling and proposed dwellings are, as well as the deer wintering area. And I'd be happy to circulate that to all the council members. I'm sorry that it didn't make it on to the agenda here for whatever reason, but I am happy to circulate that sketch. Otherwise, I think that the report did a very thorough and good job of explaining what exactly we're hoping to accomplish with this zoning bylaw. And just again, that it is a requirement under the severance consent that has been applied for. But that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very kindly. Okay, so again, moving on to the next one, because we will, these bylaws will be read at the end and voted on. The file description for the next item, zoning bylaw amendment application 003-2021. Owners BBIH Holdings Inc., Burke Chamberlain, municipal address 19 Valley View Drive. Legal description, Part S, half lot 4, concession B, part 2, Plan 21R-4216, Town of Bancroft, County of Hastings. Purpose and effect: the purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment to the Town of Bancroft's comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 is to rezone the subject lands, is to permit the conversion of the second level of the existing building to allow for 5 accessory dwelling units, notwithstanding the definition of an accessory dwelling unit or a dwelling unit accessory. All land zoned environmental protection EP zones are to remain zoned environmental protection zones. So Robin, you have a report on this?
I do. Thank you, Your Worship. So staff received a zoning bylaw amendment application to rezone 19 Valley View Drive from the service commercial C2 zone to the service commercial exception 2 C22 zone. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject lands to permit the conversion of the second level of the existing building to allow for 5 accessory dwelling units. The notice of the public meeting was circulated as prescribed by the Planning Act, and on May 5th, 2001, comments were received from the County of Hastings Planning and Development Department. The senior planner informed town staff that the subject property is currently designated urban commercial industrial in Part B of the County of Hastings official plan. The urban commercial industrial land use designation does not permit residential uses. In this regard, the zoning bylaw amendment application does not conform to the land use policies of the official plan and is contrary to the Planning Act. In order to permit the proposed residential use on the subject property, an official plan amendment from the County of Hastings would be required to amend the current land use designation. Staff note that the introduction of a new use must conform to the present day land use designation policies applied to the subject lands. To introduce the proposed residential dwelling units on the subject property, an official plan amendment is required. A site-specific official plan policy may be applied, recognizing the proposed residential uses above the main floor. The 3 primary concerns of development include adequate provisions of sewer and water services, adequate parking, and a record of site condition. Following correspondence from the County of Hastings Planning and Development Department, the applicant was advised by town staff to withdraw their zoning bylaw amendment application or request a deferral of the application until an amendment to the official plan has been obtained from the County of Hastings. On May 12th, 2021, staff received an email from the applicant requesting a deferral of their zoning bylaw amendment application. The applicant is currently working with County of Hastings staff and town staff to address the official plan amendment. At the time of this report, there have been 2 additional written submissions received regarding the proposed application. An email received May 10th, 2021 from Robert W. Prescott provided support of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. A letter was also received May 17th, 2021 from Morna and Sherwood Plunkett, which noted a number of concerns, including the extent of the environmental protection zone and the location of Whitefoot Creek. The letter also notes the proximity to licensed pits and quarries. At this time, staff recommend that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application be deferred until the applicant has obtained an official plan amendment from the County of Hastings. And at this time, I'm willing to take questions from council or members of the public.
Members of council, question or comment? Councilor Miles.
I just want to make sure that I have this processed correctly, because along the way, this seems like one of those common sense things to me that I'm having a little bit of struggle that we would put a roadblock up in front of this. There's already apartment buildings right down in that neighborhood. We have a real lack of housing everywhere around us. Water lines have been improved all along Highway 28 going down towards that new intersection. I don't think the footprint, if what I'm reading here is correct, the building itself is not going to change whatsoever. we also have been fairly vigorous with our economic plan about providing an opportunity for all residential or for all second story dwellings, buildings downtown to be almost automatically now. You can have residents upstairs and businesses downstairs. So I can see that this is one of those pieces where the red tape might make some sense, but the common sense says to me, I don't necessarily agree with putting up a roadblock to this. I think there is some benefit to our community to allow this process to roll forward. Just a thought. I'm struggling with the common sense of it, Robin. That's all. So and I understand what all the paperwork might say. This draws me back to the Coppin question that took about 2 years, which made no sense the entire time, and nothing changed in 2 years except finally council said, okay, let's use some common sense. And that was a dwelling in on Cleek Street that had a mix of commercial and residential. And for whatever reason, there kept being this roadblock to changing the back commercial space into residential. I mean, eventually it went through and it's the best use of that building right now. So I am struggling that we would put a roadblock up to this.
So let me comment on that first of all. So obviously at one point in time, residential was permitted here because on the property right now, there are, on this street adjacent to it, there are 3 parcels zoned R3. I'm not sure if it was in the 28 OP update or maybe a previous one that there was a change in the OP designation of this particular property here. So that's basically why. And under the Planning Act, any zoning that the town does must be in compliance with the official plan. So hence the process that Robin has outlined. And maybe I see Jason Budd has flashed up on the screen here. Maybe Jason, you could just sort of give us a little insight into the process for, I'm assuming this is a site-specific OP amendment application that would take place here?
Through your worship, it is a site-specific OP amendment. So the 3 items that were identified by your planner with respect to ensuring adequate servicing, parking, and also the record of light condition. And we can work with the applicant to move this forward pretty quickly.
That's good news. Thank you. Glad to hear that. So do we, just as a point of curiosity, Jason, did this change come back in the last OP update, or do you know that, or if it was one that had occurred sometime in the past?
I believe that the residential component predates both official plans. So it's the buildings were constructed around 77, 70, and 79. I believe that the change was not in the last official plan either, but I'd have to double check that. But
Not an issue. It's there. I just wondered if you'd come across it in any of your research there, et cetera. So, Councillor Wiggins.
Yeah, I agree with Val. I just want to comment that we do need the resident. It appears like it's just a glitch in the system. I commend Bert for following through the proper procedures to get this remedy. The other question is, I'm not really sure who Jason is.
Oh, Jason Budd is our senior planner for the County of Hastings.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank Jason. I did put an inquiry in and he responded very detailed and very quickly, and has laid out the process to work with the applicant. So we do appreciate that. So Charles.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yes, I've got a question, Jason, in regards to the other apartment buildings that are there now that have been there for quite some time. Are they going to be in the correct rezoning, or is the county going to change that as well?
Through your worship, the official plan amendment will apply only to the subject property.
So what becomes of those other 2 properties there then, as far as the legality is concerned, like if someone were to wish to purchase those, would they be zoned properly or not?
Through your worship, the parcels are presently zoned R3. Yes, I believe they're zoned R3, and they're also considered to be legal non-conforming. They're legally established. So nothing's going to happen to them. They were legally established, so you're not going to take that right away from somebody.
Thank you.
So when we get our comprehensive zoning bylaw up to date, would they remain as an R3, or would there some new designation had to be placed on them to be compliant with the official plan? How would that work?
That's a good question. I think that, can I get back to you on that?
Yes.
I want to think. But that's an excellent question. I think that what we would probably do is, I have to talk to Justin.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know these buildings are up for sale, and we, when it always seems to come to closing, there always seems to be a last minute scurry to provide proper documentation that buildings are compliant, et cetera. So just
through your worship, they'd be illegal non-conforming buildings, structures, and they're actually zoned to permit the use right now anyways. So it's that's applicable law.
okay, thank you. So is there anybody from the public before we get into, just technical question, Robin, because it's being deferred, do we still go through the opposition and support process?
We are holding the statutory public meeting. So I believe it is appropriate to do the call for support and opposition, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I will do that. The call for public input. If a person or public body does not make verbal submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to council before this bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So you did mention there was one letter in opposition, Robin?
There was one letter that noted, addressed some concerns surrounding the environmental protection zone, the small water course at the back of the property, and the proximity of licensed pits and quarries in the area.
Okay. And how would that be handled? That would be handled in a final report that you would do at the time?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Thank you. So call for verbal submissions in opposition to the proposed amendment. Was there anybody to speak in opposition that you're aware of, Robin?
No, Your Worship. I've not received any input from those that wanted to provide comments in opposition.
And written submissions in support, did you receive any of those?
Yes, Your Worship. We received one written submission in support of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment.
Okay. And verbal submissions in support of the proposed amendment. Was there anybody that indicated they wanted to speak? Did the applicant wish to speak?
If I can, I would absolutely like to speak.
Yes, you may speak.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody out there. I really appreciate the general sense that I'm getting of support for the project as I see it. And probably as you see it as well. A couple of you have indicated that our town very badly needs additional accommodations, not of just expensive waterfront property, but housing for anybody that wants to be able to come here. And certainly the facility that I've proposed is going to have various levels of accommodation, although there's only 5. There'll be one bachelor unit, there'll be 2 one-bedroom units and 2 two-bedroom units. No change in the physical size of the building. It's a redoing of the upstairs. Several of you would have been in my building over the years, and if you liked my office, that could be your bedroom. And throughout the whole upstairs. What I guess my biggest question is that I've submitted my excuse me, my application for the rezoning back in early February. And I'm anxious as hell to get going with this thing. I've got quite a bit of money invested in it with trying to beat the market, if you will, in terms of all the lumber products, the drywall products, and so on and so forth. And so timing is of the essence. And I realize that you are all trying to help me here. And I would ask that everything that you could do to support this and support the speed at which it could go through the system. Jason, you had indicated that perhaps it would be a fairly quick process. That would be great. Perry, I think you have some water and sewer report to prepare rather. Perhaps you've already done it. I don't know.
Yes, I have.
Great, thank you. And as far as the environmental protection area, I'm pretty sensitive to that myself. And there is definitely no intention of any encroachment in that back area in any way, shape, or form. I want to preserve that in addition to the fact that it's a main storm sewer runoff. So it's got to be kept there. Anyway, that's enough of my carrying on. Thanks again for your support.
Thank you. Okay, so we will at this time adjourn from the public meeting. Be it resolved that the council of the corporation of the town of Bancroft is hereby adjourned from public meeting and reconvene the regular meeting of council. Could I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Miles, Councillor Barry McGibbon, all in favor, please? Thank you. Planning decision following the public meeting. Council decision to refuse or pass an application to amend the zoning bylaw is to include a brief explanation of the effect, if any, that the written and verbal submission relating to the application had on a decision. So you're going to see a couple here that were heard at a previous at a hearing. So don't get confused that I'm jumping into something that wasn't talked about today. The first one is zoning bylaw amendment application 011-2020 Fountain Hill. Be it resolved that the council of the corporation of town of Bancroft is hereby received a Hastings County Planning Staff Report dated March 16, 2021 regarding proposed draft plan of subdivision file number 12T-19-001 and zoning bylaw amendment application number 011-2020 for information purposes. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that motion, please? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Barry McGibbon, all in favor, please? Thank you, passed. Secondly, be it resolved that the council of the corporation of town of Bancroft is hereby approve of zoning bylaw amendment application number 011-2020 to rezone lands legally described as Part 1 on 21R-14371 and Lot 57 and part of Lot 56 on Registrar's compiled plan number 2196, Town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, for multiple residential R3 zone and local commercial C3 zone to multiple residential exception 11 holding R3-11-H zone and local commercial exception 5 housing C3-5-H zone. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Miles and Councillor Tracy McGibbon, does any members of council require a refresher on this, or is everybody good? Seeing no questions, all in favor, please? Passed. Thank you. The next one is zoning bylaw amendment application 012-2020 to preserve at Bancroft Ridge. Be it resolved that the council of the corporation of the town of Bancroft is hereby received the Hastings County Planning Staff Report dated March 16, 2021 regarding the proposed draft plan of subdivision file number 12T-20-002 and zoning bylaw amendment application number 012-2020 for information purposes. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Jeremy.
Councillor Barry McGibbon and Councillor Miles. All in favor? Thank you. Secondly, be it resolved that the council of the corporation of the town of Bancroft is hereby approve of zoning bylaw amendment application number 012-2020 to rezone lands legally described as parts of lots 1 and 2, concessions 16 and 17, and part of lot 73, west of Hastings Road, Geographic Township of Faraday, now town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, from the residential type 1 exception 3 R1-3 zone and the residential type 1 exception 3 flood prone R1-3F to the residential type 1 exception 17 holding R1-17-H zone the residential type 1 exception 18 holding R1-18-H zone, residential type 1 exception 19 holding R1-19-H, the residential type 1 exception 17 flood prone holding R1-17F-H zone, the residential type 1 exception 19 flood prone holding R1-19F-H zone, the community facility exception 5 holding CF-5-H zone, and the community facility exception 6 holding CF-6-H zone. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Wiggins, seconded by Councillor Barry McGibbon. Council have any questions on that at this time? Seeing none, all in favor, please? Passed. Thank you. Moving on to what we dealt with today in order. Zoning bylaw amendment application 010-2020-337 Bradshaw Road. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of the zoning bylaw amendment application number 010-2020 to rezone lands legally described as Lot 12, Registrar's compiled plan, 1929, Geograph Township of Dungannon, now Town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, municipally known as 337 Bradshaw Road, from the rural residential RUR zone to rural residential exception 10 RUR-10 zone. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Tracy McGibbon, all in favor? Passed. Thank you. Next up, zoning bylaw amendment application 001-2021 25964 Highway 62 South. Be it resolved that the County of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of zoning bylaw amendment application number 001-2021 to rezone lands legally described as parts lots 27 and 28, concession 4, parts 1 to 3, plan 21R-19512, Geographic Township of Dungannon, now Town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, municipally known as 25964 Highway 62 South, from the general industrial M2 zone to rural RU zone. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that one, please? Councillor Wiggins, seconded by Councillor Barry McGibbon. All in favor on that, please? Thank you. Passed. Okay, next. Zoning bylaw amendment application 002-2021, 173 Bay Lake Road. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of zoning bylaw amendment application number 002-2021 to rezone lands legally described as Lot 1, Plan M35, part of Lot 5, Geographic Township of Dungannon, now Town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, municipally known as 173 Bay Lake Road, from waterfront residential WR zone to rural residential exception 9 RUR-9 zone, and from waterfront residential WR zone to waterfront residential exception 5 WR5 zone. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Mover, please. Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Miles. All in favor, please? Thank you. Passed. Okay, zoning bylaw amendment application 003-2021-19 Valley View Drive. Be resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby defer of zoning bylaw amendment application number 003-2021 to rezone lands legally described as Part S, Part Lot 4, Concession B, part of Part 2, Plan 21R-4216, Town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, municipally known as 19 Valley View Drive, until the applicant has obtained an official plan amendment from the County of Hastings. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, as please? Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Wiggins. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, bylaws, first, second, and third reading. be resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw number 40-2021, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. Bylaw number 41-2021, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. Bylaw number 42-2021, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. Bylaw number 43-2021, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. Bylaw number 44-2021, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. And bylaw number 45-2021, being a bylaw to authorize the corporation of Town of Bancroft to enter into a model home agreement with Bancroft Ridge Development, Inc. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Moved by Councilor Barry McGibbon, seconded by Councilor Wiggins. Any questions on any of those? Clarification? Seeing none, all in favor, please. Thank you. Passed. Confirming bylaw, first, second, and third reading. Be it resolved that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting of council held on May 18, 2021 be hereby given a first, second, and third reading and be finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered. Bylaw 46-2021. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor and Councilor Tracy McGibbon. All in favor, please? Thank you. Next meeting date, regular council is June 8th, 2021 at 3 p.m. And could I have a motion to adjourn, please?